All right, so today we're going deep on MCDP 1.0. You know, the Marine Corps is kind of like their playbook, right, for how they approach everything they do.
Yeah, pretty
And
much.
we've got a whole stack of articles and briefings here all about it. And our mission today is to, like, distill all this down to what you as a Marine need to know. No boot camp rehash, we're going straight to the heart of it.
Right to the good stuff.
Exactly. So first things first, what exactly do we mean by doctrine?
Well, especially in the military, it's not about just following rules blindly, right? It's more like, think of it as a set of guidelines, principles that help Marines make decisions, in the heat of the moment.
So it's flexible.
Yeah, because war is unpredictable. You can't have a rigid plan for every single thing.
Right, right. That makes a ton of sense. It actually reminds me of something I read in Chapter 3, a quote that really captures this whole idea. There wasn't any fuss about their mobilizing. There never is. Just an order issued and one regiment after another are on their way to Cuba or Mexico or the world's end. Where they are going isn't the Marines' concern. Their business is to be always ready to go. Always ready to go. That's the core of it, right?
Absolutely.
That readiness.
Yeah, and that quote really sets the stage for what Chapter 3 is all about, expeditionary operations. Being able to deploy anywhere, anytime, and win. That's a tall order, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
So to pull it off, MCDP 1.0 breaks it down into three main areas: planning, execution, and assessment.
Okay, so let's break those down one by one, starting with planning. I mean, it's not just like winging it, is it? The Marine Corps has a very specific process.
Oh yeah, for sure. So the Marine Corps planning process, or MCPP, it's got 6 steps that guide commanders and their teams through making sense of a situation and then creating a solid plan. But here's the thing, just going through the motions, that's not enough. Each step has a deeper purpose.
Okay, like what specifically? Can you give me an example of how one step can make or break a mission?
Yeah, let's take the first step. Problem framing. This is all about getting a crystal clear understanding of what's actually going on. Let's say you're facing an insurgency, right? You can't just assume that everyone in a village supports the insurgents. Are they helping them out of fear? Or do they actually believe in their cause? That difference is huge. And it changes how you approach the entire situation.
So it's like you're constantly gathering intel. Even in the middle of planning, things can change.
Really rapidly, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And MCDP 1.0 stresses that plans need to be adaptable. That's where this idea of design comes in. It's not just about giving orders. It's about fostering dialogue, where everyone in the command contributes, their knowledge. The goal is to have everyone on the same page, understanding the problem and the desired outcome.
Makes sense.
You don't want a plan falling apart because
right.
one small detail was missed.
Right, yeah. To make this a little more concrete, the document talks about these different areas of interest, influence, and operations. How does that actually help in the real world?
Okay, so think of it like this. You're a platoon leader. You're tasked with securing a Q bridge. Your area of interest might be the entire region, keeping an eye on anything that could affect your mission.
The bigger picture.
Right. Your area of influence is where you can actually make a difference, maybe the villages surrounding the bridge. And your area of operations, that's the bridge itself, where the main action is happening.
Okay, so you're breaking it down.
Yeah, understanding these distinctions helps you focus your efforts and resources where they matter most.
Right, focus is key. And then within that space, you've got different types of operations: deep, close, and rear. What does that look like?
Okay, imagine you're setting up a forward operating base. Your close operations would be securing. The immediate perimeter, deep operations, might involve sending out patrols to disrupt enemy activity further out. And rear operations would focus on logistics, keeping supplies flowing, communications lines open. But here's where things get interesting. In a complex environment like counterinsurgency, these lines can get blurry. The enemy might be operating right in your backyard, so you need to be adaptable.
Yeah, you got to be ready for anything. Speaking of action, let's move on to the next phase, execution. This is where all that planning comes to life, right?
Exactly. And one thing MCDP 1.0 really emphasizes is the need for decentralized decision-making. On the ground, things change fast. Waiting for orders from HQ could cost you valuable time.
You can't always wait for permission.
Right. So the doctrine empowers leaders at every level to make decisions, within the commander's intent, of course.
So it's all about trusting those on the ground to make the right call. As a Marine, how would you stay on top of everything and make those split-second decisions?
Well, that's where the tactical tenets come in. Combined arms, exploiting the environment, and surprise. These are all emphasized in MCDP 1.0. Let me give you an example of how these tenets can make all the difference.
Hold on, before we get to that,
Hmm?
I have to ask about something that really jumped out at me. Fighting asymmetrically. It's this idea that Marines don't always need to be bigger and stronger to win.
Right. It's about being smarter, leveraging your strengths against the enemy's weaknesses. Think of it like David versus Goliath.
Classic example.
You don't need to meet brute force with brute force. You need to find their weak spot and exploit it.
Okay, so how does that actually play out on the battlefield? What would be an example of fighting asymmetrically?
Let's say you're facing an enemy that's dug in, like really entrenched in a mountainous area. Going straight at them, toe-to-toe with their defenses, that'd be costly.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
Right. But what if you use your knowledge of the terrain and your agility to your advantage? You could send in small, highly mobile units
Okay, I'm following.
to infiltrate their rear, disrupt supply lines, just cause chaos.
Hit them where it hurts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's classic asymmetrical fighting, using your strengths to exploit their weaknesses.
Like a judo move, using their weight against them.
Right.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But even with the best tactics, sometimes things go wrong, right?
Yeah.
How does the Marine Corps approach assessing what worked and what didn't?
That's where assessment comes in. The often overlooked but super crucial final piece.
The debrief.
Yeah. It's about taking a hard look at what happened, both the good and the bad, and learning from it.
Got to learn from your mistakes.
Absolutely. And MCDP 10 really stresses this distinction between measures of performance and measures of effectiveness.
I've heard those terms before, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure I totally get the difference.
Okay, think of it this way. Measures of performance are about doing things right, checking the boxes.
So like following the plan.
Exactly. Did you complete the mission on time? Did you stay within budget? It's about efficiency, sticking to the plan.
Okay, so it's like following a recipe step by step. But measures of effectiveness seem more about whether the cake actually tastes good.
Got it. Measures of effectiveness are about whether you achieved the desired impact. Did your actions actually move the needle toward the overall objective?
The big picture.
Exactly. Let's say your mission was to, I don't know, help stabilize a region by building trust with the local population.
Okay.
A measure of performance might be the number of community meetings you held,
Right.
but a measure of effectiveness would look at whether those meetings actually resulted in increased trust and cooperation from the locals.
So you're looking at the actual impact.
Yeah, did you actually achieve the intended goal?
So both are important, but effectiveness is about...
That bigger picture.
Exactly.
Okay, I get it.
And MCDP 10 stresses that assessment is ongoing, not just something you do after the fact. It's about constantly evaluating what's working, what's not, and making adjustments along the way. So you're always learning, always adapting.
You got it.
Now, I want to dig a little deeper into some of the core principles that guide Marine Corps operations. The document talks a lot about achieving a decision in battle. That seems like it goes beyond just winning a fight.
You're right. It's not just about winning a tactical engagement. It's about achieving a result that shapes the situation and moves you closer to the overall mission success.
Okay, so it's like winning a battle, but also positioning yourself
Yeah,
to win the war.
you got it. It's about linking those tactical actions to the bigger strategic objectives.
Makes sense. But how do Marines actually go about achieving this decisive action?
Well, MCDP 10 highlights several tactical tenets that are crucial for achieving a decision. One of the hallmarks of the Marine Corps is the concept of combined arms. It's about bringing together different elements of the force: infantry, armor, artillery, aviation, and making them work together seamlessly.
So it's not just about having a bunch of different weapons, it's about using them in a coordinated way, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Take the Battle of Iwo Jima. In World War II, for example, the Marines faced a really tough Japanese defense.
Yeah, heavily fortified.
They used naval bombardment and airstrikes to soften up the enemy positions, then sent in landing craft with infantry and tanks. Once ashore, they used flamethrowers and demolitions to clear bunkers, while artillery and air support continued to pound the Japanese defenses.
Wow, that's a lot of firepower.
It was a brutal battle, but the Marines' combined arms approach ultimately proved decisive.
It's not just about brute force, it's about using each element to its fullest potential.
Right, and it's not just about the different branches. MCDP 10 also emphasizes exploiting the environment itself, using terrain, weather, even darkness to your advantage.
Turning the battlefield into an ally.
Precisely. A skilled Marine can use terrain to conceal movements, channel enemy forces into kill zones, or even disrupt enemy communications.
You're thinking like the enemy.
Gotta. During the Vietnam War, the Viet Cong were masters of this. They used the jungle to their advantage. setting up ambushes, disappearing into the foliage.
Yeah, they were tough to fight.
The Marines had to learn to adapt and fight on the enemy's terms.
So adaptability is key.
Absolutely. War is unpredictable. You have to be able to think on your feet, adjust your plans, and make decisions in the heat of the moment.
No room for hesitation.
Right. And then there's the element of surprise. How does that factor into Marine Corps operations?
Got to keep the enemy guessing.
Exactly. Surprise can be a game changer. It can disrupt enemy plans, create chaos, give you the initiative. MCDP 10 talks about achieving surprise through deception, stealth, and ambiguity.
I'm particularly interested in that idea of ambiguity.
Ambiguity.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that?
Think of ambiguity as keeping the enemy guessing. It's about making them uncertain about your intentions, your capabilities, or even the location of your main effort.
So they don't know what's coming or where it's coming from.
Exactly. During Operation Desert Storm, the Marines staged a massive amphibious landing off the coast of Kuwait. This created a lot of uncertainty for the Iraqi commanders. They weren't sure what the Marines were up to. And that uncertainty contributed to their defeat.
Wow, so it's about creating this fog of war that makes it difficult for the enemy to make good decisions.
Exactly. And all of these tenets, combined arms, exploiting the environment, surprise, they all tie into this concept of fighting asymmetrically that we talked about earlier.
It's all about finding that edge, that advantage, that allows you to overcome a stronger opponent.
Right. And that leads us to another key concept that MCDP 10 emphasizes: tempo. It's about dictating the pace of operations, being faster and more agile than the enemy.
Tempo, tempo, tempo.
Yeah.
It's not just about speed, though, right? It's also about timing.
Right. Knowing when to act, when to hold back.
Absolutely.
It's about controlling the rhythm of the battle, keeping the enemy off balance, and seizing the initiative.
So you're always one step ahead.
Exactly. During the invasion of Iraq in 2003, the U.S. forces, including the Marines, used a blitzkrieg approach, moving rapidly across the desert, overwhelming the Iraqi defenses before they could react.
Shock and awe.
Exactly. That rapid tempo was key to the coalition's victory.
So it's about seizing the initiative and never letting go.
You got it.
But as we've been discussing, war is unpredictable. Things don't always go according to plan. How does MCDP 10 address this need for adaptability?
Well, the document highlights two key ways to adapt: anticipation and improvisation.
Anticipation, I guess it's like planning. For contingencies, thinking ahead about what might happen.
Exactly. But improvisation,
That seems a bit risky.
it can be, but it's about reacting to the unexpected, having the flexibility and the mental agility to adjust your plans on the fly when needed.
Okay, so thinking on your feet.
Exactly. To do this well, you need leaders who are creative, experienced, and have a deep understanding of the commander's intent.
So they can make the right call in the moment.
Yeah. A great example of this is the Battle of Belleau Wood. In World War I,
Oh, wow, going way back.
the Marines faced a tough German attack and were forced to improvise their defenses, using anything they could find to hold their ground.
Talk about adaptability.
Right. Their ability to adapt under pressure was key to their victory.
So it's about balancing that preparation with the ability to think outside the box when things don't go as planned.
Absolutely. And that seems to connect with another key concept. In MCDP 10, exploiting success and finishing the fight.
It's about keeping the momentum going.
Exactly. Exploiting success isn't just about capitalizing on a victory. It's about using that momentum to keep the pressure on and drive towards the objective.
It's like turning a small advantage into a decisive victory.
Right. But as the document points out, it's not enough to just exploit success. You got to finish the fight. And that requires judgment, timing, and a relentless pursuit of the objective.
Seeing it through to the end.
Exactly. It's about delivering that knockout blow, achieving the mission, and making sure your efforts contribute to the overall strategic goals.
That's a great point. This deep dive into MCDP 10 has been incredibly insightful. We've covered a lot of ground. From the planning process to the tactical tenets that guide Marine Corps operations. It's clear that MCDP 10 isn't just a dry technical manual. It's a reflection of the Marine Corps core values and their fighting spirit.
I completely agree. The document doesn't just tell Marines what to do, it explains why these principles are important. It's about fostering a mindset of adaptability, initiative, and a relentless pursuit of excellence.
It strikes me that MCDP 10, it's as much about mindset as it is about specific tactics.
Oh, absolutely. And that mindset, it's forged through rigorous training, shared experiences, and a deep commitment to the core, to its values.
About being a Marine.
Yeah, it's about empowering Marines at all levels, fostering initiative, and creating a culture where adaptability and learning are, paramount.
So it's not just a manual, it's a reflection of the Marine Corps ethos.
Exactly. The document constantly emphasizes decentralized decision-making, putting trust in leaders at every level to act decisively, within the commander's intent, of course.
It takes a lot of trust.
It does. That confidence in the individual Marine, their ability to adapt and overcome, it's truly remarkable.
It's about cultivating a sense of ownership and responsibility at every rank.
And recognizing that, no plan survives contact with the enemy, being able to assess the situation on the fly, make adjustments, and exploit opportunities. That's what separates good Marines from great ones.
It all comes back to that adaptability.
You got it. And MCDP 1.0 really hammers home the importance of constant assessment. It's not just about measuring success or failure. It's about using every experience as a chance to improve.
To learn and grow.
Right. It encourages Marines to constantly evaluate their actions, identify weaknesses, and strive for excellence.
It's creating a culture where learning from mistakes is seen as crucial. Not something to be ashamed of, but a stepping stone.
Yeah, stepping stone to getting better.
Absolutely.
Because ultimately, the true strength of the Marine Corps lies in its capacity to adapt, to evolve, and to learn from every challenge it faces.
It's about always striving to be better, to be ready for whatever comes next.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the nitty-gritty of planning to the big-picture concepts that drive Marine Corps operations. It's clear that MCDP 1.0 provides a framework, a set of tools, but it's up to each individual Marine to bring those tools to life.
That's the heart of it. MCDP 1.0 provides the guidelines, but it's the Marines themselves, their dedication, their ingenuity, their unwavering commitment that makes the real difference.
So to every Marine listening out there, we leave you with this. How will you embody that spirit of adaptability and continuous learning? How will you contribute to the legacy of the Marine Corps, ensuring it remains a force to be reckoned with? Ready to face any challenge anywhere in the world, thank you for your service. And for joining us on this deep dive into MCDP 1.0.